Hello and welcome into Looking Up with Laird here on Sorare TV. This is episode 6. Joined once again by Mr. Harry Trade and Sam Tighe. Guys, we had a sub last week. Special thanks to Trippin B for filling in for Sam. And he started, I think, the ball rolling on talking about World Cup guys. And the World Cup is upon us. So you guys have some World Cup guys that we're going to talk about today, which is really exciting. I've heard, or we have already talked about at least one that we're going to discuss. What I didn't ask when we were kind of discussing it was whether you guys think these players are looking up for the World Cup or if it's like the World Cup is going to like propel them into more, but we'll get into that. Sam, you were off last week, or off. You were not with us last week. So I'm going to lead off with you to add to our Looking Up with Laird watch list. Once again, available on Sorare Data. Link is below in the description. So if you want to check that out, we're up to 36 people who like to get these names before the videos come out. So I have to imagine all 36 are filthy rich by now by buying the cards that we have touted and then not bought ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that list was at about 18 the last time I was here. So that's the Trippin B effect trademark.
Maybe.
I mean, that's it. And big thanks to Trippin B for stepping in. I made a prediction silently before he opened his mouth, and it was that he would be talking about Karol Swiderski, and I was totally right. So that was no surprise at all. But I like the shout, of course. As he mentioned, we've been talking about him. And I'm going to follow Trippin B's lead, not just on World Cup hype, but also we're going to go back to Poland. And we're going to take a look at Piotr Zielinski. Piotr is just Polish for Peter, as far as I'm aware. So you can call him Peter if you'd like to, but he plays for Napoli. He plays for Poland.
Not for Peter, God knows what it is.
Yes, he's having a really, really good season. And again, like as is often the case, I never necessarily expect to sit here and talk about the player that I end up mentioning. And I'll tell you where this comes from. Started to research Poland for the World Cup. Started looking at Lewandowski's major tournament record. It's surprisingly bad.
Yeah.
He's only scored 5 goals at finals in Euros and World Cups combined. Now he's been at a fair share of them. Poland pretty much qualify for all of the tournaments and have done since Euro 2012. In Euro 2012, he was a massive disappointment. Poland were co-hosts in that tournament. I remember he was playing for Dortmund at the time, and they had Jakub Błaszczykowski and Lukas Piszczek on right mid and right back, and Lewandowski up front. It was that whole Dortmund right flank. I was like, they're going to be brilliant. And they were a real disappointment. And he was, he didn't score as many goals as we expected him to. And that's kind of carried on. Like, he's basically on like a 1 in 3 record, which I appreciate Poland aren't as good as his club sides, but for Lewandowski, it's not that good. So sat here thinking, well, one of two things happens. Option A is that Lewandowski goes mad here and makes up for lost time. And if that's the case, someone's got to supply the assists. If Lewandowski continues to play like he has done at major tournaments and actually somewhat underwhelmed, someone is going to have to step up. In both cases, I think Piotr Zielinski is stepping into a good spot. He's having a great season. He's creative. He can score. He can pick a pass. And he's a guaranteed starter in midfield or in attacking midfield, maybe in support of Lewandowski for Poland. I actually do quite like the look of the Polish in this World Cup context. I think this has to be a factor. You have to be thinking that this player can play 4+ games. And Laird, you'll actually probably be able to speak to this more than I will, but Mexico doesn't look like a particularly happy team, happy camp, functional unit.
It's a bit of a
Saudi
mess.
Arabia, clearly the 4th best team in this group. So I've got Poland to finish second in the group. I've got Poland to play at least 4 games. And I've got Zielinski down as someone that can make quite a big impact with decisives or just in terms of creativity. And you can see from his chart, like, he's had a good season. There's a lot more, there's more green in there than anything else. And, domestically, he plays for Italy's best team right now, Napoli. They've had by far the best half season of anyone in Italy.
Shout out to Jack Collins.
Yeah. Shout out to Jack Collins. For those that don't know, that's my co-host who called Napoli's title win before the season. Fair play to him. I thought he was mad. But there's a lot of players who have stepped up here, and Zielinski is one of them. I like the look of those scores. He's very good. And I like the look of his price. Obviously, it always comes back to this, right? Like, you're going to have to like the look of his price to really get on board. And if you consider, like, obviously Lewandowski is about 2 ETH for a rare. Szymanski, who also plays for Poland, everyone on Sorare knows who Sebastian Szymanski is. He's about 0.7. And the last time I looked yesterday, Zielinski's about 0.4 last auction for a rare, something like that. He's very reasonably priced compared to pretty much everyone else you could pick for Poland. So I kind of went down the route of like, pick the team you like, find the best value. And I think Zielinski has value here. And of course, he starts for Napoli, which really helps in terms of moving forward.
I like all of that. The Lewandowski thing is kind of interesting because, like, I mean, you kind of laid it out. Like, if you expect Poland to do well, then theoretically Lewandowski should do well. But we've said that before, and he hasn't necessarily been club Lewandowski. But even if he's not at his best, the expectation is Poland still do well enough at least to get out of the group. And yeah, like I like that. Like, who else is there to focus on? And Zielinski is definitely a kind of a sneaky one because, like, he's going to play. And if they have games where, like, I'm not sure that Mexico game, like, Mexico may not be that. I feel like every tournament they go into, everyone's like, they're not really that good. And then all of a sudden, not that they're going to the final here, but like all of a sudden they get like some surprising results. But this team feels different than the others. And so Poland finishing ahead of Mexico certainly seems reasonable. And obviously you have that Saudi Arabia game. You don't really know because I believe the third one is against Argentina, right? Yep. So like, if Argentina just like mop the floor with Saudi Arabia and Mexico, theoretically, if Poland do the same, then that third match is for the group. But there is a possibility that maybe Poland draws Mexico or something happens where like that third game doesn't really matter. And you get kind of an Argentina, I don't want to say like a B squad, but not the full one.
The problem is that Argentina's B team is like Julian Alvarez.
That is also true. But maybe they take the foot off the gas a little bit. But so like I think the matchups aren't that bad. And then, like you said, like when club play picks up again, obviously they start back up with Inter, which isn't like the easiest matchup to come after a break, but they've been flying this year, and so there's every reason to think that he'll continue to be a very productive player for Napoli even after the World Cup. So fun.
Yeah,
call.
No stranger to decisives at all this season.
Right.
Really stepped it up a notch. There's a lot of these Napoli players. Like, I really did not see this coming. I hate the fact that I wasn't able to see this coming. That I wasn't there calling it, but I was the one, in July going, well, Napoli are going to finish outside the top 4. How can you possibly sell Koulibaly and Fabian Ruiz and you lose Lorenzo Insigne and a couple of others? How can you possibly deal with all of these losses? I mean, not that he's on the same level, but they even lost their starting goalkeeper. I think it's like how are you going to recover from this? And they've really rubbed my face in it, because there's so many players on this team now, either acquisitions or someone like Zielinski stepping up, that have just filled the blanks. And again, it's a separate conversation, but like, we don't know what Napoli will look like coming out of the break. We hope that they look the same because it's a great story. But if you give everybody a month to study Kvicha Kvaratskhelia on film, then what do they come up with in terms of stopping him? Like, it's hot, like it could change, but Zielinski will be there. And if no one's cottoned on to Napoli, then he'll still have your long-term value. But really, I mean, the World Cup is such an opportunity here to have a bit of fun. And if you're not out there scouring the groups and trying to pick your alternate shouts, like everyone's going for Serbia and I'm sat here going Switzerland. Like, I love that. And Sorare gives you the opportunity to kind of put your money where your mouth is there in that respect. And Zielinski feels like a good shout.
Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing with Napoli preseason is kind of like, yes, they could be good if this, and this happens. And even if you were like, I told you like all of that will happen, you'd be like, all right, well then they're top 4, but they're like first. And like, it's like, it's incredible. Really
amazing.
is.
Amazing. Yeah.
Really is. Mr. Trades, I'm going to pass on to you for the next player that is looking up here.
Yeah, so this was the well, before we went live, this was the replacement that I sort of swiftly brought into my two picks. And yeah, I was just scrolling on Twitter and saw a tweet from the Moroccan national team to say that Anas Zaroury for Burnley has got his call up because of the Amin Harit situation.
Wow.
I just want to say, I knew it. I knew Harry was going to do this. I knew it. I saw that same thing earlier, and I was like, Harry's going to do this. Yeah.
So, like, the other player I had was Ishmael Kone, the Canadian lad. Like, it would have been a good story. Like, I wouldn't have minded it. But I know Zaroury just has the X factor for me right now. And from watching Burnley more often than I should be. But yeah, just called up into the Moroccan team. Look, don't get me wrong. He's not playing for a country where I look at and go, you know what, these are going to get round to 16, X, Y, and Z. But it's a player where, like, for me, having to scout under 23s for this tournament isn't easy. And especially when we're going into like the budget situations, it becomes even harder. And for $30 for a limited, 0.3, just under $400 for a rare, plays midweek for Burnley. Obviously, that aside, he's just got called up to his national team. This is going to be like his first sort of cap. I'd be surprised if he doesn't feature for them. Otherwise, why really bring him? I know they need to replace him, Harit, with somebody. But the form he's been on for Burnley, I've watched him play many a time, and I can't help but get Eden Hazard vibes from him. Ooh. And yeah, like, obviously, well, Sorare plays on the left wing for Burnley, so it's a different type of sort of player, but in terms of like what he can do with the ball and how he sort of manipulates it, it really does remind me of him. And this might throw people off a little bit because Zaroury's national flag on Sorare is Belgium, and it still is on Sorare data. So yeah, this might be one of those ones where like people might not even realize that he was eligible to play for Morocco. I'm imagining through a father, mother, granddad, whatever it is, because I know he was born in Belgium. But yeah, and he could be an underdog with an L15 under 50. So you could play him there as well if you had to or wanted to. Don't get me wrong, he's not going to be able to, compete with any sort of World Cup forward or upper echelon World Cup forward options. But for underdog, for the under 23 division, you know, if for whatever reason the big guns don't start, you know, kicking off, Mbappe, Musiala's, this could be a decent shout.
That's a fun one. Like it's funny that Sam knew it was coming too. So
yeah. It's just well, I know Harry watches a lot of Burnley because he just loves his Jordan Bayer. And obviously they've got the Muric THB combo and stuff like that. So it's kind of like an under 23 haven, isn't it? And I watched this guy play the other week as well. I watched the Sheffield United game. We were sort of messaging each other about it, right? And he was there, he was playing. I was like, oh, okay, this is quite interesting. And then I saw him get called up. Obviously, what happened to Harit sucks. You know, and anybody dropping out of World Cup squads at this stage, you know, Christopher and Kunku included, like it's just even more heartbreaking than anybody else. But yeah, I saw this one and I started looking at Morocco midfield options and stuff like that, forward options earlier today as well, because someone I remember from the AFCON who scored really well, Selim Amala, he plays for Morocco in central midfield. I remember his scores being pretty good in AFCON, so I went to have a look at him, and he's missed the last 9 games for Standard Liège with an injury. I was like, okay, so you've got no Amin Harit, you've got no Imran Louza, you've got no Amala, or he's going to be half fit. It's like at this point they're down to their 4th choice centre mid. Like you can strike somewhere here and hit gold because there'll be a seriously undervalued player that they just have to use, and it might be this guy.
Well, that's
fun. I mean, I watched a few of his games in Belgium, and he used to play more in the number 10 role. So he is able to play inside rather than playing on the wing like he does for Burnley right now. And yeah, like Sam sort of says, they are lacking sort of midfield depth. Could he fill in that sort of number 8, number 10 role? I think he could very well. So yeah, no, it's an interesting one. $30 for a limited seems pretty decent to me, considering you got a midweek sort of utility player afterwards, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, whatever it is, playing for arguably the best team in the championship. So yeah, no, I think it's an exciting one.
It does feel a little underpriced for just what you said, like a midweek eligible under 23 forward. Like I know people love to like compete with the Mbappes and Haalands and all those, but like I don't know. This seems like a reasonable play, especially with the added utility for sure.
Yeah, and he's under 23 until 2025, which is big because somebody like a Zion Fleming that I own, like he'll be ineligible in 6 months' time. So just comparing sort of championship to championship forwards right now, like I think it's an interesting pick, definitely.
Yeah, and kind of the benefit of playing in the championship is if Morocco go home after the group stage, like those games pick right up. Like you're not losing much. You're not getting a 2-month break because he plays in the Austrian Bundesliga. Like he's going to go right back. I assume maybe he gets a week or two off, but even if he doesn't, like his utility picks right back up. Like there's no break, which is certainly a huge benefit for anybody who buys the card. Fun.
Man, that Austria break is savage, huh? It's even worse than Russia.
Is it worse?
No, Russia's like March, isn't it?
Yeah, Russia's March.
I was looking at the latest calendar and I was like, I think Austria and
both of them are awful.
They're both horrible.
They are horrific, absolutely horrific. I'm so glad I'm out of Austria.
Yeah, well, that was one of the reasons I sold Nicholas Hadel, because I was just like, I can't go 3 months without having any utility from that kind of player.
Yeah.
Sam, over to you.
Okay, so carry on with the World Cup theme for sure. I mean, there's not actually a lot else going on, is there? Speaking of the Sorare calendar, you flick through it and you're like, well, unless you're interested in second division Spanish football, I'm afraid you've got no other choice but to get involved in the World Cup fever. So we'll carry on, and I'll go for someone who has seen his situation, I think, change a little bit by an injury. We'll go for Boulaye Dia of Senegal and Salernitana on loan from Villarreal. Now, I do love Dia. Like he's a really good all-round forward, and it speaks to my type a little bit because like I've got a funny thing about strikers where I don't really like strikers who only focus on scoring goals. I don't like the Javier Hernandez build of forward. I really like strikers that get involved, facilitate play, link play, bounce passes, 1-2s with the forwards and work really hard and do a lot more for your team. And Boulaye Dia is certainly that. And his goal record definitely suggests that because he only has like 3 goals in 19 games for Senegal. But you have to understand that ultimately his role for Senegal is pass to Mane. And actually a lot of the Senegal players, that's their job, pass to Mane. Like the whole team is built around getting Mane into shooting positions, getting Mane into good positions in the box, getting Mane into a position where he can make the difference. Like the dependence on him is really, really, I don't want to say worrying, but I guess it is because he's not fit. Yeah. Like he's going to miss at least, I mean, they've been very coy, but they said games, plural, an S on the end. So first 2 for sure. And they're hoping that he might be able to play the 3rd or maybe the 4th if they get there. Now, Ismaila Sarr is on the right-hand side, usually. He's an option, but he's expensive because he's one of the top players in the championship. Boulaye Dia, quite a lot cheaper, quite a lot more reasonable. And now, not only is he still guaranteed to play and start, but he needs to take on that added responsibility of, I'm going to score these goals. Someone's got to do it. Someone has to, because Mane isn't going to be there to do it. And it's between Dia and Ismaila Sarr to figure this out. And Dia's a good player. I would suggest that he's going to step up and really relish this. He does have a nice little history, at least, of stepping up under pressure. He scored the goal in the playoff between Senegal and Egypt to get here in the first place. So there's one clutch goal in the bag, and hopefully we can see a few more. Even though Mane's injured, I still kind of fancy Senegal to get out of the group. I think Group A is very interesting and intriguing for sure. Like Qatar feel like a massive unknown. Ecuador could strike. It feels quite open, but I still kind of think I'm shading towards Senegal. So I'm looking at Dia there with that increased opportunity for a decisive, increased responsibility. And I look at the price again and I'm like, not bad, really not bad. Which is a shame because I had one in June and I sold it in in July, maybe. I knew he was going to appreciate in value, but I needed to move the money into other things. So and now it's double the price of what I sold at Boulaye Dia. So I've messed up big time. But that's not important. The important thing is things are looking up for him, and that I feel like with the strikers for the World Cup, like particularly if you're looking at the rare options, you know, how many elite forwards go to the World Cup and genuinely fire? It's just not that many. It feels like such a crapshoot. And I'd just be so much more comfortable with someone like this who doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but is in a good situation and does play for a good team. It's the kind of box I would tick there for Dia. He's a really good player.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you bring, because it's not usually like a high-scoring tournament anyway. And so paying up for, I guess you can make the argument that you pay up for like the few goals, but generally we don't really know where the goals are coming from other than Harry Kane from the spot. And so
and Lionel Messi, yeah.
And so, yeah. But like after that, like we mentioned, like anybody who is like going all in on thinking that Robert Lewandowski like breaks out, like that's what it would be. It would be like a breakout, like not a, oh, he always scores in these big tournaments, and so I'll pay up because I know what's going to happen. Like we just don't know. And this group is really interesting. Like there are some wonderful like conspiracy thoughts of like, well, surely Qatar gets out because they're hosting and that's just what happens. But I mean, I think the general expectation is Netherlands wins the group, but like after that, you're right. It's like very close. And theoretically, if the other two games that they all play get kind of wild, like, yeah, why couldn't Dia score a goal or two and let, bring Senegal up as they wait for Sadio Mane to get fit again, if he does.
Honestly, if he scored 2 goals in 3 games, which is just not out of the realm of possibility whatsoever, he'd be like 40% of the way to the Golden Boot. That's how difficult it is to really rack them up in this tournament. I mean, typically a Golden Boot winner scores 5 or 6.
Right.
And that's like a real achievement. I just look at the other foot, and I look at Belgium and Lukaku is like clearly limping into this tournament. I look at France, who are clearly going to go out in the group stage because of the World Cup curse. I look at all sorts of other options, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like Spain don't have a prima punta, a proper number 9 that you can absolutely, like Morata will play, but like, do you want to spend your money on Morata? I honestly think it's such a massive unknown, such a giant question mark that it's always someone like Dia that steps forward and scores 3, and that's really all you need in this format, I think.
I'll jump on to the same reason to like him that Harry liked one of his, that he's underdog eligible too.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like one thing, I was going to say, Sam, do you know if he takes penalties with Mane not playing?
Oh, I don't know that. I mean, that's never really been a.
I was going to say, has anyone ever tried?
Is it like, does he ever take him? Did he take him for? I know, like he wouldn't have been the first choice of Villarreal, but just at any level, was he a penalty taker? Is kind of.
I have never seen him take a penalty, so I'm not sure. But we can probably do a quick. Because obviously Senegal progressed past Egypt on penalties in the shootout.
Yeah.
So we can have a look at to see who took penalties in that. And
the laser game.
It was not. It was. He might not have been on the pitch, to be fair. Koulibaly took the first one. Whoa!
Nice.
He missed.
Nice. He missed.
Thought I'd leave that out until Harry said something.
So I've just checked. He used to take penalties for Stade de Reims, or whatever you want to call them, in France.
Wow.
Runs. Yeah, he took penalties there. I know that's a different standard and whatever, but yeah, he did. So it's not as if like he can't take penalties in that sense in like a top 5 league. So yeah, maybe there's a chance that he jumps on him for the Senegalese national team.
It is probably quite important to think about penalties, isn't it? I didn't think of that,
yes.
Harry. Nice one.
I feel like it would be Sar, but I'm only saying that because I'm like, oh yeah, next best guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like that doesn't. I mean, who knows? He could have a horrible penalty record, and every reason why he wouldn't take him.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Sar's also a nice option, by the way. I think he just was more expensive, and I'm such a cheapskate.
Is it? Let's see what the. Oh, he's like more than double. Yeah, that's a big jump.
But like he's, Boulaye Dia is a good player for a bottom feeder Serie A team. Like he has utility beyond the World Cup, but it's not like premium utility. Ismail Assar rips the championship in half every 3 games.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah, that's fair. Bit of a tough.
Unless he leaves in January. We'll see.
True.
He nearly went to Villa in the summer, didn't he? So it was very close. So we'll have to see.
Dia has a bit of a tough schedule coming out after the World Cup, but I don't think we're not buying players for 4 games.
No.
Other than, the 4 during the World Cup, and then after we'll figure it out. Yeah, no, I like that call as well. Is that 2 forwards and a midfielder. So Harry, who is the last player you're adding to our list today?
So to spice it up a little bit, I have gone with a defender.
There we go.
Balance.
Now I've gone with a player that I've known about for a little while, and his name is Piero Hincapie, of the Ecuadorian national team, and by Leverkusen. 20 years old, under 23 until 2026. You take a look at his the picture like a metaverse type.
Look what they've done to my boy.
Yeah, what have they done?
They've done that with all the Ecuadorian players.
With all
they've stuck a yellow shirt over them.
No.
Even though he's been minted as a Leverkusen player, they've done it with all of them. It's horrendous.
Yeah,
take a look at his scores for Ecuador, and he was an option. Well, I had one of his cards going back a few months ago when we were sort of in the thick of like qualifying for this World Cup and stuff, and the last few games were a little bit dodgy, but before that he went on a streak of like 86, 53, 100, 51, 63, 51, 51, 68, and I remember owning him in that little period. For a 20-year-old, to be in the thick of the Ecuadorian sort of centre-back position, like you've got to be some player. He went for a big fee to Leverkusen. I wouldn't say he's fully settled, judging by his scores. He's had a few games here and there. His most recent game was a nice little 37 in a 2-0 win, 37 AA score that is. And like he's been in and out. They have a few good sort of centre-back options. He is left-footed, which I think makes him, makes any player semi-unique in that sense. And for me, again, I think he's at like, $39, $364 for a rare. He's underdog eligible. There isn't going to be many under 23 defenders at the World Cup that is like nailed on. Even like your Julian Timbers were a bit like, is it De Ligt? Is it him? Like you're looking at Hincapie. We've just mentioned the group. Like it's not impossible for Ecuador to go through, and it's also not impossible for them to not qualify. Right? Senegal and them, I imagine, is the sort of battling point there, and Netherlands taking it. But I don't know. I just think I think he's a very interesting option, and people might be like put off by his like most recent scores and in terms of like club wise. But I think long term, you've got a really, really interesting player on your hands if you do pick one up.
Yeah, the opening game against Qatar is kind of nice as well. Like, I mean, that's the best opportunity to score right away, right? Like,
we all say that, and we just don't know what's coming to it.
No,
it's
we
going
have
to
no
be like
idea.
something like the Qatari like hurricane that none of us have ever seen, and we're all gonna be blown away by it. Like,
I'll be physically blown away by it.
Yeah.
I'm with you. It makes sense, but like I don't know what we're gonna get out of that first game.
I know.
Well, we don't know what we're getting out of the first game, but you have to go into it thinking that it has to be easier than playing the Netherlands and Senegal, particularly with possibly with Mane back for Senegal at that point.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that he's underdog eligible, and I'm looking. This guy is perfect for specialist.
He is, but there's no specialist, is there?
Is there no specialist?
No.
Oh.
As far as I'm
how much
aware.
I've tried to put how much effort I put into to the scoring competition.
Laird's
The
entire World Cup strategy has just gone up in smoke.
So, yeah. All these 40 sub 40 guys I bought now just dust. Oh well.
Now there's not one on, to be fair, which is interesting.
That's it.
Still
I'm just
underdog.
boycotting it then.
Still underdog. I think, yeah. I just don't see him. Can we name some of the under-23 defenders that are like nailed? Like even like Saliba, Upamecano, like they're all sort of up in the air. Like it's quite hard to really nail down one that plays for like the better teams in this sort of this tournament. And then you go, okay, he plays for Ecuador, but like, is he going to defend for his life? Probably.
How old
is that going to go?
How
on?
old is Eric Garcia? Is he under
23? He's definitely under 23. Yeah, he's either 22 right now.
I suspect. I strongly suspect
21.
Eric Garcia is going to be playing.
You'd have to, yeah, you would.
And who else? Is that it? I mean, it's just.
That's what I mean. Like, there's not.
You know what's funny is that it's so few that I could see people who have Diogo Costa playing the 4-player U23 and not playing a defender.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, okay. Well, we forgot one. Nico Williams. I just remembered.
Oh, thank God you're here.
Yeah, really.
To be fair, he's in my actual just 11-a-side FIFA fantasy team. Nico Williams, got to get him in. Nice cheap option. I had another one there for a second. So I think Timber will play. I think Timber's there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is just based on what they've done so far. But Louis van Gaal has weird things about centre backs. He hates Sven Botman, clearly, so much so that he not only didn't call him up for the World Cup squad, but in the September break he played Tyrell Malacia as a left centre back instead of Sven Botman, which tells you how much he hates him. I don't think De Ligt's going to play. The way it's all shaping up, I think it's going to be Blind, Van Dijk, Timber. So Timber might be a good one there, but again, it's how confident are you? Are you, however much it costs to buy Yuri and Timber, confident? Probably not.
Harry really selling one if I'm selling one if anyone wants one.
Oh yeah, sorry, no. What I meant to say was Yuri and Timber is a lock. He's a lock to play. He's guaranteed hundreds.
Yeah,
Harry, I'll take my 10%. Anyway, Hincapie, very good.
What's your concern about playing time at Leverkusen after the World Cup?
I mean, you're only as good as your last game for me, and it seems like he started the last 3 and they've won every game. Before that, they drew with Club Brugge, lost to Leipzig, drew with Atletico, drew with Wolfsburg, didn't beat Frankfurt, and didn't beat Porto. So. And he was in and out of those sort of situations. Don't get me wrong. In one of those games, he did get a red card penalty against him and an own goal.
Well, it's one of the most colorful things I've ever seen, actually.
It's beautiful.
In fairness, he must have been suspended for the Wolfsburg match because of the red card.
Okay, yeah.
And
true.
All I see before that is a row of yellows. So he could have. Oh, I guess that Bruges match was. Well, actually, Madrid, Porto. He was probably suspended for the Bruges match.
Yeah.
So he might be more locked than we think.
Yeah, he might.
Yeah, I think so.
Also,
but he just hasn't
scored
that well.
He's been playing 3 centre backs, hasn't he? 3-4-3 pretty much the entire time he's come in. And yes, Leverkusen have good options, but if you're playing 3 of them consistently, then that's opportunity for you. I guess you've got the question mark there is it's Kosunu or Tapsoba, right? With Jonathan Tah moving into the rotation as well. Maybe you just have to learn the rotation patterns. But Hincapie is a left footer, as you mentioned, Harry. Very important for that left centre back role. If Alonso is going to stick on with this 3-4-3, this guy feels relatively important. So I think it's a pretty sound shout.
I think he's the perfect build for a left centre back in a 3, if that makes sense. He's probably too big to be a left wing back, and then I think he's perfect for a left centre back. He's literally, I don't think there's a better sort of physicality that you could be at than him in terms of for that position type of thing.
What Harry means is he's the Ecuadorian Ben Davies, and he's destined for glory.
The Ecuadorian Ben Davies. What a boy.
Right, stop the show. We got to
Has
finish now.
surely never been said before, but
Hey, Ben Davies scored on the weekend. Don't give me any of that jip.
there we
It wasn't
go.
an insult.
I'm joking. Well, I just can't wait to collect my Ben Davies Wales card. That's all I'll say.
I've got Connor
That is
Roberts.
all I'll say.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one for you, Elite. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for all of those. As a reminder to everybody who's watching, this list is available on Sorare Data. The link is in the description of this video. If you could just hit that link and then this heart here, you can get access to all the players that we talk about before the video goes live. So that's a nice little bonus for following the list. We are going to be on a little break because of this Sorare Global. I still can't say it. Global Cup. Because of the World Cup, we're going to take some time off. Harry's going to be there. Sam's going to be working his real job, and I'll actually just be sitting here watching. So we will be, like I said, we'll be back maybe in a month, but definitely in 2. Can we at least say that to everybody? We'll definitely be back within 2 months.
Yeah.
But of course,
I think we'll be back in 3 to 4 weeks. Let's go 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks. There it is. So yeah, stay tuned for that. There will be other Sorare TV content that everybody can watch while we are away. Maybe we'll watch it too. But also, if you guys could please like this video, share it with whoever you think would be interested, share it with people who you don't think would be interested, as long as they watch it and hit the like button. Always appreciate it. So, Harry and Sam, thank you very much, and enjoy the World Cup.